Welcome, everybody. I'm really excited for today's conversation. I am joined by Diane, founder and CEO of ImageReps. Diane is a visionary leader with a deep background in brand strategy, hospitality marketing, and digital campaigns. She helps companies not only protect their reputation, but also generate real growth by connecting more effectively with their customers online. Diane, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Glad you're here. So you've been leading ImageReps for about a decade now. How has your agency's scope evolved over that time?
When you consider that decade included a pandemic, it certainly shifted more than I thought it would when I first started this company 10 years ago. I shifted big coming out of corporate America into running
Mhm.
my own business. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've run businesses for a long time. But this one shifted the most. I had to change from customers finding me to me finding new customers. I was fortunate for a long time that everything was network driven. And I can't say enough about the power of networking as it relates to running your own business. We faced a shift when we started marketing and building our own business as a client of our own reputation management company.
Mhm. That's interesting. That's come up a few times in a few conversations where, well, first, the pandemic's come up so much. I mean, it changed everything for all of us. As a marketer, there are times where the cobbler's son has no shoes. We're so busy doing client work that we might let our own marketing slide. So what was it that you really started to focus on that started to really generate results for you to marketing your own firm and finding leads?
We started in the hospitality space. My first job was with Bonanza back when they put kale in a salad bar. The hospitality space was where I grew up. So it was a natural shift for me when I started my own business to focus on hospitality. And then as hospitality started to change, whether it was bringing marketing managers internal or whether it was switching management companies and things like that, I found like some of the networking well just ran a little dry. I started with my own LinkedIn network and just started doing way more outreach than I'd done before. We partnered with LinkedIn Sales Navigator for B2B, and that led us in a direction we'd never been in before, which was B2B. And we went from being a very business to consumer focused marketing agency to having our first and biggest business to business client that we brought on board. It was the biggest mind shift we've had as a team to understand someone sees an ad for a hotel online and they're like, wow, that looks really cool. I have time off in 2 weeks. Let's book. And they hit click.
Mhm.
When you look at business to business marketing, that life cycle can be months, years. We still have leads that came in for that client 5 years ago that are now materializing for them. So when you look at the ROI, when you look at the difference in the way that you communicate with the customers and all of those pieces that were out there, that was the biggest shift for us. And it was a learning for our own experience as well, because it changed the way that we interacted with people. We started doing more live events and nurture sequences after that for our own business to follow
Mhm.
up with that, whether it was the Chamber of Commerce or partnering with SCORE, things like that. Started doing a lot of presentations, and they didn't have that instant gratification that you see with some other businesses. So it was a lessons in patience for me and a lessons in nurturing that I didn't have before, because it was a totally different mindset. That client taught us how to mold our strategies.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you made a shift from being focused on businesses asking you to market to their consumers to now market to other businesses. So in the hospitality space, is that something where if you were working with a hotel, now you're selling events or things like that? Like how did that evolve in that hospitality space for you?
Definitely involved in the hospitality space in terms of events. So I don't just want to book a room, but I want to book a wedding. And
Mhm.
there's a much larger process. Somebody can go on your wedding wire or your not page, see the hotel and see the pretty pictures, but they just got engaged yesterday. And they're not going to make that
Right.
decision for 3 months, 6 months, right? So how do you stay top of mind for them? Whether it's using email, retargeting ads, all different from simply putting heads in beds. Now there's a much
Mhm.
longer time frame they're looking at it. As our clients ventured from the hospitality space to event marketing for trade shows and things like that. So even a much longer trade show cycle that you have there, it can be a year, 18 months in between. So somebody finishes a trade show today and they say, hey, I want to get a new exhibit for next year. There's still an 18-month space in there where they're going through that decision cycle. So, I think for me, it's the biggest thing is keeping clients top of mind. And what do you need to do to make sure that when they're ready to pull that trigger, you're right there with them and they're the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like that had to be a pretty big shift for you internally going from B2C, B2B. With your clients, hospitality or otherwise, have you seen it change over time? What they think they need versus what they actually need. If you have a hospitality client looking to put heads in beds, as you say, and now they're like, okay, that same modality, that same methodology doesn't work to book weddings or trade shows. What have you seen them grapple with? Like, I need this, but really need something else.
The biggest shift, and whether you're looking at B2B, B2C, and I don't even know if it's a shift, it could be an age old thing that we as marketers face, is who your client is versus who your aspirational client. Everybody wants their client to be that young, sexy 20, 30 something that's on TikTok with a phone in their hand, right?
Mhm.
That's not necessarily the case for all businesses out there, right? So a lot of times we have clients that say, this is where we want to put our focus. We want to put all of these dollars into TikTok marketing. Then we look at the data and demographics and say, that's not where your clients are. We need to get you more in Instagram. We need to get you more in LinkedIn. When you're in B2B, LinkedIn is the way to go. That's where everybody's looking for jobs, articles, and research. But TikTok's sexy, right? So how do
Right.
you help a client understand the balance between the fun part of
Mhm.
marketing and the part that's going to generate more results? I think that's the biggest, for me, that's the biggest challenge, is coming to that agreement with our clients on, what the right marketing strategy is, what the right mix is, and where you're at out there to make sure that you're hitting what's right for the business, but still makes you feel good at the end of the day, makes you feel cool, makes you feel fun, right? Everybody wants to feel like that. I was
Right.
reading an article and someone said it's for marketing B2B versus B2C, it's the difference between being Nike and being Salesforce, right? Salesforce markets to thousands of clients every day, but their messaging and their graphics and things like that are so much different than what you get from Nike, where people are jumping off cliffs. You just don't jump off a
Right.
cliff for Salesforce.
That is the truth. Yeah, no, I mean in marketing, sales marketing, the shiny object syndrome is rampant. It's like TikTok's the new thing. Let me get on there. I think we all have a tendency to just think, man, if I could just find that one thing that's going to explode for me, when in reality it's about doing the right small things every day. So
Right.
yeah, it must be some interesting conversations where you have to guide people away from channels or platforms. You've done the research, you can see it's not really gonna work out for them and put them into activities that it is gonna work out for them. Do you feel like, and I know this happened in my agency, a lot of people I talk to, this happened where there's a moment in your growth where you kind of go from being like a services provider to really being a trusted advisor, right? To really being able to bring that strategy. Is there one moment in time over the course of your time in ImageReps where you feel like, oh yeah, that was when that happened, or do you feel like you led with that from the beginning?
I'd love to say we led with that from the beginning. With every client, there's a ramp up time where you're feeling
Mhm.
them out, they're feeling you out, you're trying to figure out where that is. So I don't know that there was one particular point in my agency, but I definitely know that there was one particular point in almost every client. I can remember the phone call
Right.
where you're talking to the client, you know that they understand, you get it, and they might not see that the 15% lift in engagement on social media is a big deal. It didn't go viral, but a 15% lift in 2 weeks is a big deal because your content's resonating and you're excited talking about it. And they're saying, and it's 15%. But I understand that 15% of people felt better about your content this week. We're hitting the mark and seeing consistent results over time. Or, when the CEO picks up the phone and says, I'm not really calling for a specific marketing problem, but here's a challenge that I'm having in my business. And I want to understand how you think you can help me solve it. Those conversations with clients open my eyes. Yes,
Yeah.
we've hit that point where I'm on their short list to call when they need to pivot their business, when they need to launch a new product line, when they need to, figure out why things aren't working. My business is all about, we're not about process driven and forms and intakes and things like that. We're about people and how we resonate. And if one of my clients needs me at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, I'm likely going to answer that call pretty quick because I know if they
Mhm.
need me at 8 o'clock on Friday night, it's a big deal. That's how we've built our agency. And it's, for me, it's those little moments. It's those little wins where you can tell at the end of that conversation, I have a good partner.
It kind of ties back to what we were saying with shiny object syndrome, right? Hey, don't worry about the latest and greatest. Just do the right things every day. It sounds like that's what you're doing with your clients, and then that's how you build the real relationship with them. And I imagine when they're reaching out to you and they're asking you these strategic questions, every problem's going to be different, every client's going to be a little bit different. But looking across the board, is there anything you think is working? What growth strategies are you seeing that are working across a broad spectrum of your client base?
I think the biggest one is to focus on authenticity, to make sure that that
Hmm.
content is really resonating and constantly looking at the content, whether it's your website, whether it's your paid ads, social, messaging, and emails, just a constant relook at what you're putting out there and make sure that it's resonating. If you're seeing a drop in clicks in email marketing, if you're seeing a drop in impressions on social media or a drop in clicks to your website from paid ads, what's causing that? Is it something that changed in the business? Is it something that changed in the consumer mindset? Make those changes and have brainstorming sessions together. At the end, you come out and say, okay, let's try it this way. And tried and true, no matter what the client is, no matter what the channel, test, 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 and make sure what you're putting out works.
Yep. And it sounds like the strategies that you're implementing for clients, you're also implementing in-house for ImageReps. Is there anything you focused on? You came from the hospitality industry and a lot of your clients were hospitality. Did you start to focus on new verticals or offering different services? How did you deepen relationships with clients? How did you approach growth for ImageReps?
So we actually started solely as a reputation management agency within the
Hmm.
hospitality space. TripAdvisor reviews, Google reviews, they're everything. So we started managing that platform, helping take the personal connection away from business owners responding to reviews, making sure that they're listed correctly, making sure that they were visible. And second client that we brought in that was a network referral from my past time in corporate America said, hey, I know when you were back here, you did this. Would you think about taking it on for me? And so we said, sure, we can take that on. And we just started layering on services as our clients needed them. We partnered with bigger email management companies, became certified partners with them. When they weren't working for our clients, we went out, found a company that we thought would be a good fit. We became a partner of theirs, went through their education process to make sure we were an expert, and we're able to add that on. So within each service, we've taken time to learn the players within those services and make sure we're matching the right supplier partner with the client.
Do you get a lot of prospects who would come to you and be like, "Hey, we just need more leads"? I get that all the time. "Hey, I need more leads yesterday." And that's always a difficult conversation to have with them because I think, you got to realign expectations and level set. Do you have any strategies to assess like where they really are or just to make sure, hey, you've got the right foundations in place? Like how do you take that conversation?
Yeah, those are the toughest conversations as a marketer to have,
Yeah.
right? Because they're coming to you because they have a true business need and you want to solve it quickly. Unfortunately, sometimes those things are just not a quick overnight fix. If you're selling widgets and there's a need that it's easy to get somebody a lot more sales of widgets. If you're selling something that has a longer life cycle, it's not as easy to make that quick. And to your point, we can create the prettiest Google ad that's out there, but if it links to a website that's not performing, there's really no reason to spend money. I've had hard conversations with clients. I'd love to help you with Google or Meta ads to make your business visible, but if the infrastructure to support it isn't there, then that's just throwing good money at bad. A client came in and said exactly that. And we said, fantastic, but your web speed is struggling. You don't have a solid strategy of 5 different keywords on 5 different pages that take you to 5 different sections of your business, right?
Yeah.
Nobody can understand what you're selling once you get here. We took 3 months, did a solid revamp of their website. We looked at everything from content to graphics to speed to the way that it was built. And then we launched the Google ads on top. And clearly we launched them afterwards. So it's easier for me to say it was successful, but I still stand behind it. It was much more successful because when people got there, they could understand what was being sold. There was a clear message. There were clear calls to action. We've had people come to us and say, I want to sell more of X on our website. And you get to the website and the buy now button is 3 scrolls down. You lose people after 2 seconds. We have the attention span of a fly when we get to a website. If you're not getting there and can find how to make a decision, they're gone. I don't think there's ever been an instance where someone's come to us with that question and we've said, absolutely, let's just run with it. There's always been a conversation
Yeah.
of, here's what we think you need to do to make that more successful. If that was all in place in the beginning, they probably wouldn't be coming to us in the first place. Those questions are sometimes hard to tackle and they're difficult conversations. And we've lost some clients over those conversations because one of the things that I've been really fortunate with in my agency is I've been able to make sure that those relationships are right for the client and for us. I don't ever want to put us or the client in the position of 90 days afterwards having to come back and saying, you just didn't get what we were trying to say.
Those are some of the tougher conversations. They can be kind of a filter for, is this client going to be somebody I want to work with? They come to you thinking they know the problem or solution. Like I need SEO or Google ads. And you look at their stuff and you're like, no, you need a new website because sending people here is not going to do you any good. So yeah, it does become that filter. You mentioned a couple times there page speed. And page speed is definitely one of those things that not enough companies are looking at. It is something that's going to affect your SEO. It's also going to really affect your Google ads, right? Because if you're getting those low quality scores, then you're going to have to pay more per click for each,
Right.
excuse me, for each click, and you're paying more than your competitors. It's hard to get ahead. Is there anything else, kind of an unexpected place that you get your clients' value?
Doing the deep dive ahead of time and looking at their competitors. A lot of the times they haven't looked at who their competitors are.
Mm.
Before we send back a proposal, we ask, who are the top three people you're gunning for, right? And we look at their websites, we look at their social profiles, we subscribe to their newsletters, we throw them into some search platform that we have to see if they're running any paid ads. It's important to understand if a client says, I have $10 a day to spend on Google ads, and we can say, but your competitor's spending $500 a day. There's a disconnect right there that we want to make sure that we're on top of. To your point, to be able to not be throwing money to ads that aren't going to get shown at any time when you want people out there or in any placement, things like that. I think for us, one of the things that we do and we're proud of is always that comp set look and see who is it that you're trying to be, whether it's aspirational, whether it's realistic, just understanding what success looks like for them outside of dollars and cents. But for some of them, it's a reputation. For some of it's, I want to position myself in my industry as a bigger thought leader and understanding, you might not need more social media. You might need to do some webinars. You might need to publish some articles, right? Especially in that B2B space, positioning the company as the industry thought leader is super important. And being able to say, here's why, and here's what other companies are doing, rather than just saying, this is what I think you should do. Conversations are easier when you can say, here's why we think that.
Right. Sounds like you're bringing data on that too, right? You've done the research, like, hey, your competitor's doing X, Y, and Z, or they're ranking for X, Y, and Z keywords. Data can be really powerful.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Data is easier than emotion for sure.
Yes, yes. There's been more than once, and where a client will ask me like, "Well, why do you think this will work?" 'Cause I've been doing it for 16
Right.
years, and I can tell you this is going to work, and
Right.
that's never enough. They need the data. So yeah, I definitely
Right.
got into the habit of finding all of that. It sounds like over the years, you've really expanded in your verticals, moving from hospitality to other industries and expanding your services. As a founder, it's really important to protect your energy, protect your team's energy, when you're serving clients. Have there been anything that has come up as like a non-negotiable to just make sure that that relationship between you and your clients, your employees and your clients, is staying healthy and everybody has the space to grow?
The biggest one is the buck always stops with me. No one in life is perfect. No one in any industry is perfect. We have a team who look over everything we put out, and there's a chance something could be missed. We proofread, edit, look at images. You have 9 emails about the same social post with
Right.
5 people on the client side, 3 on your side, trying to decide which image is best. Inevitably, in those 9 emails, the eighth one gets picked up and not the ninth. When challenges happen, the buck stops with me. I'm always the one that picks up the phone. I take the ownership. I make the apology. I keep that connection at my level because in my mind, that's my role to my team. It's my job to make sure that my team knows that I have their back. And I have their back in the tough conversations with the clients too, right? So if they come to me and say, I've been managing this account, I really disagree with what they're saying, they're pushing back really hard, I will always pick up the phone. I signed the contract. I was the first interaction they had. I want to say, hey, we have to find a way to come together here because we just don't feel like we're doing the right thing for you. Sometimes you have to pick up the phone and say, we need to have a tough conversation, but those tough conversations always come with me.
Clients appreciate that. It gives you the opportunity to come into those relationships and keep them informed of everything that's going on. Is there anything you're paying attention to on the horizon, the next 12 to 18 months, whether in the marketing space or in your client space, just something where you're like, okay, we're going to need to keep an eye on this and see how it affects things?
I think it's just the change on the horizon, right? There's
Hmm.
so much change coming in with all of the changes that have happened in this country with tariffs and how clients' businesses are changing. There's so much unknown that we don't know is going to change based on how much has changed behind us, right? So really helping them to stay ahead of trends. We try to look at whatever industry we're in, we try to look for any forward thinking information, whether it's the hospitality space, what PKF or the industry experts think is going to happen to occupancy, what's going to happen to rate, how much is it going to impact each individual market that we're in, right? So I think that there's so much unknown out there that we're trying to focus right now on keeping them grounded in a solid content strategy of sharing what your business is about, making sure that they're staying visible, and then really just taking the time to look at any emerging channels that are out there. There's a few of them buzzing out there as emerging
Yep.
channels, helping them understand how much of their resources, whether it's our resources or their financial resources, they should put into those new strategies and keeping that balance for them.
Making sure they keep doing the things that have been working, but also starting to test out those new emerging channels and see if they can make it work. Diane, is there anything we haven't talked about today that you want to make sure we talk about? I feel like we covered a bunch of stuff, but if I didn't ask a question about a topic you wanted to share, happy to give you the floor.
No, I think this has been fantastic. You asked great questions. It's always great talking to another agency mind who's been there, who's grown their own agency. It's certainly been a journey I would never change. I've loved every minute. There's been some days that I've ended them going, boy, this was tougher than I expected.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see where we land. In the beginning, we're in a growth pattern for the first time, and we're running paid ads for ourselves and testing those ads. And so it's really exciting to see where things are going, where things are changing, and the dynamics of the client coming in.
Nice. I love it. Where can people find you online? I'll put links in the show notes, but let us know now where everybody can find you.
www.imagereps.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of those places under the same ImageReps, and we'd love to connect with you.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for the time and the expertise today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Bye-bye.